Well, one of the projects that my wife and I have carried out during this period of time has been the repair of our garden shed. We've done quite a good job. I did the joinery. Please don't look too closely at it. And my wife did rather a good job of the painting. And our son came down about a week ago and he looked at it and he said, well, it's still a bit rickety. I said, well, yeah, it's a shed. Um, it should last a good few years into the future. And I was saying, well, we're in our 60s now. It should see us out. And after we die, you and your brother will inherit the house. And then he said, well, so really you're passing the problem on to me then, aren't you? I said, yeah, that's right. And it reminded me of the impermanence of so many things in this life. We've done a good job patching our shed up. It'll last a few years, but in time it will collapse and fall down. And then earlier today I was reading in Mark's Gospel in chapter 13 of a time when Jesus with his disciples, they were visiting Jerusalem, and the disciples were rather impressed at the temple in Jerusalem. And he said, the disciples said to him, look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings. And then Jesus said, oh yeah, well, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down. So Jesus was saying that great temple there, that great building, was a bit like our garden shed. It stands for a few years, but then it will decay and collapse. And in fact, it did happen around about 40 years after the crucifixion of Jesus. The Romans invaded, and they did indeed destroy the Jerusalem temple. So it did come to pass. The reality is that the things that we build in this world, they last for a few years, but they do come to an end. In fact, probably the philosophers have some kind of expression for this, something like the human existential despair, something like that. All of this life does come to an end. You can imagine a photograph of a happy family group all around the table, mum and dad, the kids, the grandparents are having a great time. But then when you look at that photograph, you can reflect about the fact that in about 100 years from now, it will all be gone. Everything will in fact collapse. And even the atheists tell us that eventually our whole solar system, they reckon, will collapse into the sun when it finally explodes. So there is a basic human despair that knows that in the end, everything in this life, whether it be garden sheds, whether it be temples, whether it be even Buckingham Palace, it will come to an end. Is there any hope? The good news is that there is. When we read on in Mark's Gospel, chapter 13, Jesus talking to his disciples, he's talking about the end of the temple in Jerusalem and indeed the end of the world, which will happen. He talks about the gospel message, the good news of Jesus. And Jesus says that before all that happens, the gospel must first be preached to all the nations. The word gospel means good news, the good news of Jesus. Yes, everything in this life comes to an end. But the gospel hope is where we believe in Jesus, where we trust in him, where we live for him, then there is eternal life. There will be life with him forever. He will make a new heavens and a new earth, and we will be a part of that. That's what gives us hope through the despair, through the difficulty, through all the problems that might arise in life. We have hope through Jesus. He will be with us forevermore, and we will live with him and enjoy his presence forever.